Virtually Inspired, the show that is all about helping you up your game when it comes to virtual experience design and facilitation. Let's change the landscape of virtual from awful to awesome. My name is Melissa Dinwiddie. I am from Creative Sandbox Solutions, and I help innovative companies grow sales and retain customers and talent with creative virtual experiences because I infuse connection, joy, and delight into virtual trainings and events. You may not have known that connection, joy, and delight could be part of virtual trainings and events, but that is exactly what I do. So welcome. Today's guest is Brian Rolnick-Fox, who is the founder, CEO, and chief learning evangelist of Nimble Learning Strategies. I love that name. He has been using improvisation as a channel for individual growth, group development, and organizational success since 1999. We're gonna party like it's 1999. He is committed to nurturing a yes and mindset so we can all access more acceptance, appreciation, and action within ourselves and with others. Now get this, Brian spent 10 years as a professional actor, tackling humorous and dramatic roles on stage, in commercials, and on film. I want to ask him about that. He also served as a producer, director, and dramaturge for original theater productions and sketch comedy shows. And he had a brief career as a hand model and was known as the George Costanza of Cleveland. And if you weren't clear on that, that was a reference for Seinfeld fans. So if you're any Seinfeld fans in the audience, give us a shout in the comments. He currently is a co-executive producer for the forthcoming documentary Torn. So let's welcome Brian.
Hey, Melissa. It's so great to be here.
Oh, it's so great to have you. Oh my God, there are so many things in your bio that I have questions about. First of all, the hand model. How did you get into hand modeling?
Oh my goodness. I'm a retired hand model at this point. Although I do have beautiful hands. That's what people tell me. I have beautiful hands.
You have very beautiful hands. Like I can't even compare my hands. I've like my hands are aging. Hands, you know, that I guess I could have like old hand model hands.
You could do old hand modeling. Yeah. I was an actor at the time, and my agent said, "Hey, how are your hands?" And I said, "Wait a minute, what's happening here?" And she said, "Do you have good hands?" I said, "I don't know if I have good hands." And I said, "Here are my hands." She said, "You have good hands. Would you like to be a hand model?" And I said, "Sure, I'd like to be a hand model. How much does it pay?" And she said, "A lot of money." And I said, "Even better." And then I was a hand model briefly many years ago.
So, okay, so I have to ask you, did you walk around like with oven mitts on your hands?
I did a little bit of glove. I did some gloves and whatnot. I once burned my hands at Passover Seder with the soup, and I got really freaked out about it. It was my sister made fun of me, and my brother made fun of me for months afterwards. Yeah, and that's why. And I was living at home. I was an actor, waiting tables or whatever the heck I was doing. And I was living home with my parents, and I was hand modeling. So that, of course, my friends and family started calling me the George Costanza of Cleveland. So there we go. And that's for the Seinfeld friends, you'll get that reference.
Yes. That is hilarious. Well, it makes me think, you know, I have performed as a singer, as a jazz singer, and which is uses this very specialized part of your body. And I often think like, oh my God, I'm glad that I don't make my living as a singer because man, when I had a gig, it's like, if you get a little phlegmy or if you get a cold or something, it's just a nightmare. And I can imagine if you're a hand model, like, oh no, like you scrape your knuckle or something and there goes the gig, right?
And that's it. That's it. Yeah. Well,
oh my God.
I had to give it up. It's too much.
I can imagine. Wow. Okay. So I have another question.
Please.
And I have my best friend has been a professional actor, was a professional actor for many years. And I've asked her this question in the past, but I've forgotten the answer. So I need to hear it from an expert. What is a dramaturge?
Great question. I might not get this right because it's been a long time since I was doing this kind of work. But in essence, my poorly defined way of describing this is sort of, it's almost like a head writer, making sure that the like almost like a script supervisor / head writer. So script supervisor, that's easy to say. That 5 times fast. Script supervisor on a film set is making sure that we're keeping on track of the film based on the script, right? And a head writer is making sure that the content is matching what the show's themes and issues and what they want to get across and be funny and all that stuff. So I'm trying, again, somebody's out there is going to probably like tweet me and say, no, that's horribly wrong. But anyway, but it's sort of a mush of those things where you're trying to make sure that the content is matching the overall production and things, especially if it's a new play, which is what I was working on at the time. And so making sure that we're matching the goals and themes of the production of the show.
Very interesting.
Really loose, choppy definition, but nonetheless.
Wow. And okay, so how did you get into what you're doing now?
So I was an actor for 10 years professionally and a lot of other things, as you mentioned in my bio. And I was acting since I was a kid. And I got to a point where I started to get burned out from acting, from the business of acting, not the craft. And so I had started taking a job in working in the nonprofit field, doing experiential education. And that just lit me up. I just felt like, wow, what is this? And so I started to do that more and more. And as it progressed, I was actually in a professional development program for experiential educators. And the person who was running it had known me from some previous programs and interactions and being in the same network and all. And he's sitting there, he knew I was an actor. So he said, Brian, he said, every good educator has at least 2 or 3, curriculums in their back pocket that they can run if they need to in a pinch if something happens. And I'm sure Brian is an actor. I'm sure he's got a couple monologues in his back pocket that he can pull out anytime he needs to do an audition. And so this was a couple years in that I had been doing this experiential education as sort of my day job. And I realized in that moment that I no longer did that. I no longer had those monologues ready. I no longer was doing all the things I used to do on the professional side of things for acting. And that was when I kind of had the light bulb. I'm like, that doesn't suit me anymore. This other piece of me has a calling towards it. So anyway, working in the nonprofit field in experiential education led me to then corporate learning. And so I've been doing corporate learning for probably about 10, 12 years now. And I love it. It's kind of a good mishmash of so many things that I am passionate about. I love leadership development, which is part of what I was doing in the nonprofit field, now doing corporate learning. I love the meeting more and different people, which in corporate learning, I'm meeting more people now than I would have in the nonprofit space. Bringing all these lovely acting and improv skills to fruition and let them be used as tools and techniques to have better relationships at work so people can get more done. So it just is such a great mishmash of things. And I'll say the last thing is why I started doing that way back when and why I still do it now is I have such rewarding conversations with clients. So whether it was back in my nonprofit days or now in corporate learning, just the most juiciest, rewarding conversations come up. So that's why I do what I do.
That's so cool. Yeah. I love the evolution that you just described, and it resonates for me a lot because my own life is very different. Of course, my path has been really different, but there's a lot of analogies to my own evolution.
So share a little bit about that.
Well, I was an artist, and actually I started singing and getting into jazz singing as a way to procrastinate when I was getting very burned out making a living from my art, and so that wasn't feeding me the way that it had. I got into being an artist professionally because I love making things with my hands, and then that turned into a job.
Right. Go figure.
Like just a job. And so it wasn't feeding me creatively and spiritually the way it had been. And so I turned to music as my sort of fun procrastination device, right? And anyway, when I pivoted to corporate, to working with teams and groups in a business setting, in with the corporate world, what I've really enjoyed is just like you talked about, the conversations and meeting lots of different people. And I really resonate with that. And you being able to bring the creativity and all of the tools, I didn't think of them as tools, but all of the tools and the methods that I was using for my own growth, my own development, and helping individual creatives, using those and applying them in different settings, and helping bigger groups, more people to develop and grow. I really love that. So there's sort of a parallels going on.
For sure. That's great. Awesome.
So what I'm really interested in, Brian, is what is working well for you virtually these days? I know you do in person, and I know you do some virtual. So what's working well for you virtually? And I know also you have a little something up your sleeve.
I do. I think how do I focus this? I think that there's I think that we've been in this space of using the virtual world more than ever before in the last 2 years because we were forced to. And I think a lot of us have come kicking and screaming into this world, and that's totally fair because it has been very jarring. And I've always been about how do people build better relationships in an organization. That's what I'm one of the many things that I'm most curious about. And so that's what I guess want to focus on today is, yes, we can create awesome designs. Yes, we can have great activities to connect people. And I feel like in the meetings that I'm in, when I volunteer and things of that nature, I feel like even sometimes in the corporate world, I feel like people are just taking this medium for granted and they're forgetting how to leverage it so it can be a better tool for building relationships versus we're taking it for granted. And so we just, no one's like, people are looking over here and they're not really connecting. And so that's what I'd like to focus on today is how are we connecting through the screen? How are we building our virtual presence through the screen to connect with others? And so I guess what I'd like to do with you today, if that's okay, is to coach you. Would that be okay if I coached you for
Let's do it.
So when I coach people, the value I want to bring is a part concierge and part tour guide. So a good concierge doesn't just throw some menus at you. They ask you questions about what's the experience you want to have, whether it's about food or sightseeing or whatever it may be. And they ask you questions to get to know you a little bit. We're going to do that in a moment. And a good tour guide doesn't just point at a building and give you a fact. She tries to bring you into the experience of whatever that lesson, that curriculum, that city, that building, that museum, whatever that is, there's a journey she's trying to take you on. And so that's what I'm hopefully going to give you a little taste of today as we jump in. So with that, I have your first question. My first question for you is, again, about you. What you're a performer. You've been on doing virtual stuff for quite a bit of time. You've got this down, right? And I'm sure just like me, even though I've been doing this for a long time, there's always little things I can tweak. So my question to you is, what are your virtual presence strengths and what are your challenges? And another way to frame this question is, if this might be helpful for you, I like to ask two questions in one. That's what I like to do. Is how do you want your audience to experience you differently? So any way you want to answer those questions as a mishmash.
Well, I always want to feel, I always want to connect with people. So the the more that I can use this tool, this platform, whatever virtual platform I'm on, as a means for connecting with people better, more effectively, that's what I'm looking for. And I want to get more juice out of the orange.
Juice out of the orange, great. And so that juice out of the orange, I love that term. In your, what trips you up? What challenges you when you're leading a session virtually?
Let's see.
And I'm not talking about the technology part. I'm talking about you as a person, as a performer in that moment. What might throw you, or what might stumble, or what's the thing that you want to tweak or get better at?
I think I can be really self-conscious about where my eyes are going.
Okay.
And I do have a camera that sits actually in the center of my monitor. So that's a little, you're getting a little peek behind the scenes, as it were.
That's
so
a good tip
I have
people. Very good. Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So that's a little bit of a hack that I have. But I know for example, like I'm constantly wanting to keep track of what time it is, right? So I know that the way things are set up right now, my clock is way off over here. So I have to shift my eyes up in the corner of my screen in order to look at my clock. And I'm really self-conscious about, does that, or if I have my notes set up and I'm typing notes, then I tend to have my notes down. I try to put them like directly below the camera.
Right. Yeah.
So that it just looks like my eyes are just going down rather than way off to the side or something if I'm typing notes.
Yes.
But I noticed, I suppose I could try to put a little clock really close to my camera as well. But like if I'm looking at the time, I'm worried that somebody's going to think, is she bored? Or,
You're right on track with that. So yeah, yes, a technical issue is bringing that clock and the other notes or whatever you have in the center line, right? And what you're exactly pointing out why that's important, because if you're doing too much of this, right, and you're looking way off camera, people are going to perceive that as being disconnected, and I think it's both on a conscious level or a subconscious level. So they're perceiving it that way. And you're saying it's even tripping you up because now you're self-conscious about, do they think I'm bored? Do they think I'm distracted? Whatever it may be. So I think there's two ways to do this. One is just simply moving the clock over or getting some sort of mechanism so it's in your line of sight. Two, what you're already doing is you're just a smidge back from the camera, right? For those people at home watching, if you're one of those people, which I've seen plenty of those folks, even now in 2022, where they're this close to the camera, you're making it harder on yourself because every little movement is going to be noticed. If you're a little bit further back, it's a little bit better. So you're partway there. And then I think the other thing is, name it and claim it. So if you're going to be looking at notes, just say, hey, everybody, I'm just going to let you know every once in a while, I'm going to check the time to make sure that we're on track. I'm going to look at my notes from time to time. And then that makes people in advance settled about what's happening with Melissa and where she's going. And again, folks at home, that's something for you to do it as well, is just call it out if you have to work on that stuff. Now, I was recently in a meeting for a group that I volunteer with, and one of the folks in the meeting has her second screen like way over here. So she spent the whole meeting like this. So whether I'm trying to connect with her and she can't see me, or other people are talking, it feels like, does she care what's happening? Like she's clearly wants to be connected because she's reading the notes and she's taking notes and all that good stuff. But because she's so far off that camera, that it just feels so disconnecting for anybody watching or trying to get her attention or being connected with her. So I would recommend for everybody, if you've got that second monitor, put it above, put it closer to you, do what you can technically to move it over. I think the other thing I want to shift gears a little bit on relative to this idea is starting from the inner part of who you are. And I think that when we get grounded in who we are, it sort of takes away any kind of nervousness we have about other things that we're doing, are sort of the tactical things. So one of the things that I'm a big fan of talk shows, and they've been doing a virtual medium for many, many years, right? Decades.
True.
And then they had to shift in a different type of virtual medium, like the rest of us in the pandemic. So if you think about the great talk shows currently, Ellen, Oprah, Stephen Colbert, those are just some of my favorites, right? They are amplified versions of themselves. They're both being genuine, but it's an amplified version of that, right? And any performer, I'm sure, as you know, as a dancer / jazz person, you know, there's a genuineness to who you are, but you're amplifying it for the audience.
Right.
And it's not the same way we might be with our family or friends or whatever it may be. And so I would encourage folks listening to think about themselves. What's the persona that they want to have when they're in a virtual platform? Just like those talk show hosts do, we have to have a heightened version of ourselves so that we're communicating through the camera and connecting with people. And if we're taking it for granted and we're kind of just being the same old, it's going to get lost in translation. And so just real fast, I'm curious for you, if I were to give you this improvised moment, Melissa, how would you describe your persona that you want to share with an audience?
So I would describe my persona as enthusiastic,
Okay,
creative, positive.
awesome, perfect. So mine is purposeful and playful, right? Yours is enthusiastic, creative, and positive. Again, folks at home, I encourage you to figure out what are the 2 or 3 adjectives. Don't go 5 or 10. 2 or 3 adjectives that describe how you want to show up and how you want to connect with your audience, because that'll help ground you in what you're trying to achieve in that moment, not just in the information you're trying to deliver, but how you're trying to deliver that information, right? So I have a client, he wants to be taken with a lot of credibility, right? So that you don't always have to be, Tony Robbins and like crazy. He wants to be taken seriously and taken in a credible way. So how can he do that? What are the ways that we can play with that? And so one of the things that I asked him to do, which I'm going to ask you to do in a moment, is take a note from Eddie Murphy, the famous stand-up comic Eddie Murphy. In an interview once, when he was getting started, he was trying to find his voice. Many stand-up comics, when they first start out, they basically mimic someone else. So Eddie Murphy and Chris Rock and others, they were imitating Richard Pryor because Richard Pryor was Richard Pryor, right?
Yeah.
But then they had to find their own voice, their own persona. And so Eddie Murphy was looking at different people that he respected, and he said, I like Elvis and I like Bruce Lee. Not stand-up comedians at all. But how can I take what they do and borrow that and transform it into who I can be? And if you watch old Eddie Murphy, like Eddie Murphy Raw, Eddie Murphy Delirious, he paces that stage like who? Like Elvis, right? He's smooth and flowing like Bruce Lee, right? So I'm going to ask you this question. Are there personas, Melissa, or personalities out there? It could be a political leader, an actor, singer, whoever it be, who's a public figure in some way, who you admire. Who might that be?
Oh, wow.
Besides me, of course. Besides me.
Well, of course, Brian Rolnick-Fox. Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama, great. All right, and give me one more that might be a little bit different than her. It's out of curiosity, just to be playful, experiment.
Brene Brown.
Yeah, great, awesome. I was just talking about her last night as well. Okay, so Brene Brown and Michelle Obama. So Michelle Obama, what qualities do you like in her that you think are close to who you are? Or maybe just a smidge of a stretch?
Well, I don't know if it's close to who I am, but I like how she's very elegant and very, what's the word? She's just clear in her values, and she just always seems very grounded.
Great. And what about Brene Brown?
Let's see. What do I admire about Brene Brown?
separate from her beautiful and wise content.
Yeah. She's funny.
She's funny. Great.
Yeah, and she's kind of a badass.
Nice. I love it. Great. Let's just stop there. So pick one from Michelle Obama, and it's just for this exercise now. And if we had more time, we might play a little bit more and longer, blah, blah, blah. But just for this exercise now for today, pick one from Michelle Obama and one from Brene Brown that you want to focus on today.
And say what they are.
Yeah. Pick one quality that you admire in Michelle Obama and one in Brene Brown.
Let's see. Okay. I was gonna say Michelle Obama's arms.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Well, I'll say Michelle Obama, her persistence, or just like she just doesn't back down from.
Pause for a minute. No, go back. You mentioned elegant, clear in her values, grounded. Of those three, which one from Michelle Obama
okay.
that's something you want to play with today?
Clear in her values.
Clear in her values, great. And from Brene Brown, you mentioned funny and badass. Which one of those do you want to play with today?
Badass.
Great, awesome. So now, what I want you to do is I want you to, the opening segment that you did when I was off stage, that you typically do pretty much for every show.
Yeah.
Just do 3 or 4 lines of that, but embody your own version of being a badass who's clear in her values. And
okay.
Again, you're not imitating them. You're just borrowing from them, right? So it's not an imitation. Okay. You're just borrowing that energy, that essence from them, and allowing that to flow through in how you show up.
Okay, and I have to give a shout out to Joyce. I don't know how to say Joyce's last name, but she just left a comment. This is fabulous, Brian, and I just have to give a shout out to Joyce. So
thank you, Joyce.
I'm gonna. There we go. Thank you, Joyce.
Love it. Oh, I know Joyce. Hey, Joyce. All right, yay. Joyce. Joyce is a buddy of mine. Okay, great. Thank you, Joyce.
Okay, awesome. Okay, all right. So, clear in her values and badass. All right.
Clear in your values.
Clear in my values, badass.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. This is Virtually Inspired, the show that's all about helping you up your game when it comes to virtual experience design and facilitation. Let's change the landscape of virtual from awful to awesome.
Awesome. That's great. Now, so how did that feel for you?
It felt cool. I really enjoyed that. It was, it felt different than how I usually do it because I was really thinking, oh, and hey, Kirsten. She says embody Brene Obama.
That's great.
It felt, definitely felt different from how I normally do it with this. I mean, I was really thinking clear in values, badass, clear in values, badass. As I was doing that. That's excellent. Cool.
So that's a little taste of playing around. And so I did this with my client, and he named a football coach, and he named a mentor of his in the HR field, somebody who's not crazy famous, but who does some content online. And he borrowed from them in order to find, like, how do I want to elevate myself and sort of borrow from the greats, right? Everyone's been doing that. That's how I got through college, was a lot of plagiarism. So, that's what we are doing here. That's all I'm saying. I know we got to wrap up soon. What's our time frame here?
Oh, we are at the end. So yeah.
Okay, I want to leave people with this thought then.
Yeah.
So the way that I at Nimble Learning Strategies define presence, and whether that's presence in person or virtual presence, it's the art of owning who you are while meeting the needs of others.
Say that again.
It's the art of owning who you are while meeting the needs of others.
The art of owning who you are while meeting the needs of others.
Yes, and it's an art form.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. So let's see. I have this banner that I made. This is how
it's
people
scrolling.
can find. I know.
I love it. That is awesome.
Awesome.
Yay, technology.
New technology.
It's almost like we're on CNN or some talk show. Where
That
the
is
talking
what
pundits
happens.
and there's breaking news. Breaking news. Go to nimblelearningstrategies.com.
That's right.
On LinkedIn.
You come on Virtually Inspired and we give you a ticker.
Thank you.
That is, yeah. This was amazing, Brian. What a fantastic coaching session you gave me. I'm so glad that I said yes to being coached. I was a little bit nervous, but that was fantastic.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Oh my gosh. I could just keep going. That was amazing. Wow. So as I always share at this point in the show, every month I do a special hour-long workshop. I call them Learning Labs, non-boring virtual meeting learning lab. And each month I focus on a particular theme. So next month, June 16th, yeah, we're just a few days away from June 16th, the theme is spontaneity. And I will be teaching 2 or 3 activities around that particular theme. If you have never come to a learning lab or you have a friend who's never come to a learning lab, you can join for free your first lab by registering using the code FIRSTTIMER. Let me find the banner to come to the learning lab. There we go. And it's a ticker again, which is bit.ly/monthly lab, capital M, capital L. And again, use that code FIRSTTIMER to come to your first lab for free. So that is the plug for Learning Labs. And I'm going to bring Brian back on. There we go. And let's see, come back to just me. There we go.
All right. And we're back.
All right. Brian, this was a joy and a delight. And let me bring our display names back on. There we go. And I also wanted to share, let's see, next month, 2 weeks from now. This is every other week show. June 7th is our next show, and our next guest is going to be Lisa Yeager. Lisa believes that no one size fits all. She investigates and listens and draws from over 15 years of experience to select the right tools, processes, and players to address the needs of a given situation. So she is going to be our guest next time. So come back and let's see what Lisa has to share with us. But in the meantime, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time and giving me an amazing coaching session. That was fantastic.
My pleasure.
I loved it.
My pleasure.
This is great. Come back anytime. I really would love to have you back. This has been so much fun. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell to get video updates. Thanks.